Stop comparing yourself to other people. Just do your personal best for this get together with the time you have. And whether you do things right or you just do them depends on how much time you have left.
When your house is a mess and you're feeling the stress, what you need is a friend in your ear. Start the job and you'll see it through with Ronnie talking to you. Make the chaos disappear. Clean with Me podcast is here.
Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'm going to talk you through deep cleaning your kitchen and then taking care of some finishing touches throughout your house to get it ready for your holiday guests. Let's get right into it. It's time to gear up for our cleaning session. Maybe you need to get your house smelling fresh. Take out the trash, reline it, wipe down the exterior parts of your waste baskets. Okay. Maybe you need to let some fresh air circulate or open some curtains to kind of energize you. Although going outside to take out the trash is a great way to kick off a cleaning session because, you get moving and you get some sunshine, and that's often the way I get started. I'm not going to talk about laundry because at this point, I'm assuming you're getting close to your guests arriving and you don't want to keep doing laundry. The only exception is if you have to wash some bedding for guests. I did instruct my teenage son to wash his bedding because his room is one of the potential guest rooms. Okay. And then my office in the back, I've already got fresh bedding on that one. Just a quick recap while you're doing whatever you need to do to gear up for your cleaning session. Maybe you need to get yourself presentable, but while you're doing whatever you need to do, in case you haven't been following my series on deep cleaning for guests, I've been having people, number one, store more stuff out of sight. Number two, deep clean surfaces. Number three, buy anything you might need for your party or overnight guests, like for the shower or something. And number four, wash any bedding they might be sleeping on. Okay. So I'm going to kind of revisit those topics throughout the episode. So I just wanted to let you know those are kind of my four main steps. And I realize number one and two are pretty involved. But I'm going to assume that you've already done a lot of the early preparation. And today you just need to make sure that your kitchen is ready and then do kind of a whole house walkthrough and, of course, clean the floors. We're going to talk about all of that in this episode, but right now you're just gearing up. Maybe you need to freshen up for the day. I wanted to bathe before I started recording. My hair is still wet, but I'm well on my way to being ready for the day. I'm dressed. Or, maybe you need to have your waste baskets empty and relined for your cleaning session, because we are going to be cleaning out your refrigerator, and most likely you're going to be throwing some stuff away as part of that process. My husband even checked the expiration dates on our salad dressings and tossed some. Our ranch and Thousand Island never expire because we use those so often, but he found some other dressings that were expired because we don't use them as often. But we'll get to that. Right now, you're just kind of gearing up for your cleaning session. As with any cleaning session in the kitchen, I want you to gather up any dishes from around the house. Maybe you have a mug on the nightstand, or your teenager has a cereal bowl in their room. It's time to get all that stuff to the kitchen so that when you do dishes, you're taking care of everything at once. Okay? And I'm assuming that your guests are arriving today in this episode, but obviously these episodes will be beneficial whether you're having guests or not. You can always use these as fall deep cleaning episodes. And if you haven't heard the other episodes in the series and you have more time, definitely go back and listen to some of the other ones after this to make sure you've taken care of everything that needs to be done. Okay, while you're gathering up those dishes, I will just give you the reminder that your house doesn't need to be perfect. You just don't want to have any buildup anywhere that looks like you haven't cleaned in a while. And you want your guests to feel comfortable and that like they're eating food that was prepared in a clean kitchen because it was. Okay. And people might be helping you in the kitchen. That's why that's an area of focus. Even though you probably keep your kitchen sanitary, you wipe down your countertops regularly and clean your stove top and you clean out your sink, it's not going to give the right impression if there's food smears on your lower cabinets, for example. So we're going to be taking care of all that. I'm going to help you check those boxes so that you don't worry about anything. But I'm also going to be assuming that you've listened to the other episodes in the series, okay? While all of these episodes are kind of standalone, ideally you started preparing for guests weeks in advance. But again, if you didn't, after this episode, go back and listen to the other holiday deep cleaning episodes. You just scroll down and they're the recent ones. That way you can make sure that you've checked all those boxes, especially if you have several hours before your guests arrive. But that having been said, we're going to be taking care of the most important things in this episode that you would do just before your guests arrive. Now that you've gathered up all of your dishes, it's time to get started on your dishes. And the first thing I want you to do is put away your clean stuff. I want you to empty that drying rack and clean it and clean the countertop under and around it if you have a drying rack. I also want you to empty your dishwasher because, of course, if you have a dishwasher that you use, you're going to be loading it. Okay? And I encourage you that if you hand wash, you might even want to put your clean hand washed dishes into that dishwasher that you don't use and use that as a drying rack because then your dishes are going to be drying out of sight. That would be a good trick if, assuming the inside of your dishwasher that you never use is clean and that your guests are arriving fairly soon and that you might not be able to put everything away. That might be a way to have your countertops cleared and looking streamlined for that first impression when your guests arrive. And you could always empty the dishwasher later. Oh, you have a dishwasher? Well, I'll use it as a drying rack. Whatever. Okay. It's just a thought. I'm saying that because my husband likes to hand wash and sometimes uses the dishwasher as a drying rack. So I'm just throwing that idea out there. Now, for some get togethers, I actually stash my drying rack in the cupboard under the sink just to make my kitchen look more spacious. But that's more for somebody stopping by or having one meal that I've already prepared or something like that. Thanksgiving is a time where people are working with you in the kitchen and they're going to be helping you probably by not everybody, but they're probably, if you're having several people over, there are a couple people who are going to step up and like start kind of washing dishes as you go. And they're going to need a place to put stuff. So you're probably going to need your drying rack, but you're going to want to make sure it's clean. Okay. So, and yeah, mine has hard water discoloration like almost everything in my house. Okay. My shower walls, my shower doors. And a friend of mine told me this a while back. You can deal with the hard water by scrubbing with like an abrasive scrubber and some vinegar. But some of us don't always keep up on that. We're just kind of spraying glass cleaner on our glass and wiping it down. And, we're washing our drying rack tray with dish soap and not necessarily soaking it in vinegar. But if you have time and you have super hard water, maybe you could soak the tray of it in vinegar for a little while we're doing other things in the kitchen, especially if you're already caught up on dishes. But as long as there's no dirtiness on it, it's going to be okay. The water spots are not that big of a deal. So once all of your clean dishes are put away, go ahead and start washing your dishes. But something I want you to do differently is check the refrigerator for anything that needs to be washed. Maybe you have a nice glass container that has leftovers in it. You're going to want to purge all of your leftovers before cooking a holiday meal, okay? Because nobody's going to be eating those older leftovers. They're going to be eating the Thanksgiving or Christmas leftovers, depending on when you're listening to this episode, or insert holiday that you're cleaning for. But for a lot of us, the time that we have a lot of people over is usually going to be Thanksgiving or Christmas. Let's just make sure that your dishes are clean and that your drying rack is clean. If you do air dry your dishes in the drying rack, unlike usual, try to put them away a couple hours later after they've dried. Okay, I realize that maybe you leave your stuff in the drying rack and then maybe empty it in the morning while your coffee's brewing, or maybe right before you start to wash more dishes. But I encourage you to kind of start with a clean slate. You definitely, I mean, there's a lot of dishes involved when you're cooking a huge meal with several courses. You've got to get down to dish zero. Okay. You've got to clear those leftovers out of your refrigerator. And I do remember I said if you have a nice glass container with leftovers, I said that for a reason, because those semi-disposable containers, the Gladware or whatever, you can just toss to save time. Okay. We've got to be ruthless about throwing stuff away and focusing on what matters when we're in that final cleaning session before guests arrive, like the night before or the morning of. I've mentioned this before, but I like to save the Hillshire Farms lunch meat containers. And no, we don't eat a ton of processed meats. But my son takes a ham sandwich to school twice a week, and there are no added nitrates in the Hillshire Farms, so it's not too bad. And what I love about that brand, because I could buy other brands, but what I love about the brand is those containers that I can reuse. But I always reserve the right to throw away semi-disposable containers. And I also sometimes just buy a package of those types of containers. We usually wash them and reuse them, but I definitely toss them at times as well. So once you've removed any containers from the refrigerator that you need to wash, just start plugging away at those dishes. You might need to get the difficult items soaking and then wash the easy stuff. If you're a combo washer like me, where you use a dishwasher plus hand wash, you want to get those difficult pots and pans and leftover containers pre-rinsed and then full of hot soapy water and soaking. And then the easy stuff like the glasses and silverware, you could be just kind of rinsing under running water and then scrubbing with your dishwashing brush or your abrasive sponge or whatever, just kind of removing the food, putting them into the dishwasher. Okay. With the idea that once the dishwasher's loaded, those other difficult items have had a little time to soak. You can go ahead and hand wash them. Or maybe you have room in the dishwasher to finish pre-rinsing those items and place them into the dishwasher. We definitely try to stop generating dirty dishes when we're getting closer to having guests arrive. I mean, my husband did cook dinner last night, but he made something simple. But, you know, you could also consider, if you're listening to this the night before your guests arrive, you might want to consider ordering some pizzas or something if money permits. That way, you know, and just eating them out of the box or off of napkins, you know, or paper plates. That way you're not generating more dishes to wash when there are other deep cleaning tasks that you want to focus on. Okay, so I'm assuming you don't have a huge pile up of dishes, but no judgment here if you do. You can always pause the episode, listen to some music, come back to it, whatever works. But I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to take care of those dishes, and then I'm going to have you start cleaning out your refrigerator. People are going to be in and out of your refrigerator, okay? That might be because you're cooking a huge meal where maybe people are eating at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're reheating leftovers at dinner time, or getting a cold pumpkin pie out of the refrigerator. I love pumpkin pie when it's cold. Or they're going in there just for the whipped cream. They're going to be opening your refrigerator if it's kind of an all-day feast. Also, if it's a potluck, people could be bringing things over, placing them in your refrigerator. People could be helping you clean up, putting the leftovers into containers and placing it into the refrigerator. You know they're going to be in the refrigerator. So you're going to clean out your refrigerator and microwave. Okay? You're not going to make a big project out of it, but if your refrigerator is a total nightmare, you might want to listen to my dedicated refrigerator episode after this. If you have a lot of time and you're like, I'm not going to clean the refrigerator right now because it's going to take me a long time, you're probably overestimating how long it's going to take. But I do have a dedicated episode that gives you like 30 minutes to clean your refrigerator. So I will link to that in the episode description in case somebody wants to spend a little more time on that, and maybe, you're dealing with other surfaces in your kitchen. Okay. Just while I talk, I want you to be cleaning out your refrigerator and microwave. And you can always just use dish soap and hot water. Hot water is your friend when you're cleaning areas that have dried on food. You want to get the water as hot as possible. Okay. I often clean my dishwasher shelves with just a rag and an abrasive sponge and some liquid dish soap, super hot water, and then I shine the shelves by cleaning them with white vinegar and a paper towel or microfiber cloth. Okay. When my husband cleans the refrigerator, he takes the shelves out and cleans them, but you might be cleaning it, and obviously that's the best way because it gets the stuff that's around the edges or whatever. That's the thorough way, is to kind of take everything apart. But you might be cleaning at the last minute, so you might want to just scrub the visible areas and just get up next to the edges or whatever. But you'll see if there's some kind of a spill where you ought to remove something. Like if there's a visible spill and you wipe down a shelf and you can see some kind of a substance around the edge, then you have to remove it. Okay. But yeah, you just pull everything out. It's not going to get too warm in the amount of time it takes you to clean the refrigerator. You can either pull everything out at once, or you can do it shelf by shelf. Like you can start with the door. Then you can clean the bottom shelf. And, you could start at the top or bottom depending on what you're worried about, whether you have, you shouldn't have open containers of food. If you do, you're going to move those out before you clean. Okay. Like if you have just some uncovered item in there. It's not as hard as you think. It's one of those chores that you tend to procrastinate on because you think it's going to be more involved than it is. It really isn't. You just need super hot water, something abrasive, some kind of soap. The liquid dish soap is safe to use inside your refrigerator. And if you are worried about like the glass being cloudy, you can fix that by using white vinegar as your glass cleaner. And we all know about those little tricks for cleaning the microwave where you put some hot water with like lemon or vinegar and you like boil it to loosen the debris or whatever. Okay, you can do that, but you can also just use an abrasive sponge, like a sponge that has an abrasive side and a soft side, and the liquid dish soap and the hot water. Okay, You can clean almost everything in your house with dish soap and water, like other than your glass and mirrors, which would obviously be clouded. But you'd be surprised how much you can do with just some liquid dish soap. I think the reason we get other products is just sometimes we don't want to have to scrub as hard, and different products are, good on different things. I am still going to be wiping down some cabinets today, so I wanted to mention that. The product that I especially like for that is, and I'm not, sponsored by these cleaning products, but like some of you are asking for product recommendations. There's a Pledge multi-surface cleaner. It's not that old school Pledge that your mom used just on like the wooden furniture. Okay. It is a different one that's like in a blue and orange container. It's a little expensive, but that stuff's great because it works on glass and other surfaces like wood. It works on your countertops. So if you needed to clean your kitchen with just one product other than the dish soap, that Pledge is definitely one to get because you can use it on the glass windows of your appliances or your stainless steel appliances. Obviously, disclaimer, read your owner's manual if you have such fancy stuff that you've got to use certain products. But I use it. I'm just telling you what I use. I will use that on the stainless steel refrigerator, on my appliances that are a combination of stainless steel and black and have windows. That product does all the things. Okay. So that's definitely an easy way to go. And I'm excited about scrubbing my cabinets with it. But at the same time, I could use dish soap if I needed to. Okay. You might not have time to go to the store, so you might need to just use whatever you have. And then I also have a more natural cleaning spray, the Myers. But when I'm deep cleaning for guests, that's not the time for these soft products, okay? In my opinion. That's more of a nice everyday product where you're limiting if you're limiting your exposure to toxins and you want to, be careful with the sprays you use and stuff. And there's science to back that, okay? But special occasions call for the stronger products, in my opinion. So just be working in your kitchen while I talk. And then after we're done talking about the kitchen, I'm going to talk about going through your whole house and just doing kind of a walkthrough and putting things away. I'm going to talk more about that in case you have anything that's out. And you're also going to be looking for certain problems. I'm going to tell you what to watch out for. I'm going to help you look at your entire house through, the lens of a guest. And then, of course, you're going to do a little bit of dusting and vacuuming, sweeping, and mopping at the end. You're probably going to want to put on some music for that. It definitely helps keep you energized. You might need some more caffeine. Maybe you need to pause the episode right now because you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and caffeine kind of calms you and energizes you at the same time. Don't come at me if you're not into caffeine, but when I have a lot of cleaning to do, there's definitely an iced coffee involved, and it might be my second or third one of the day, but I'm still going to drink it if I have a lot to do. Okay. And I don't know, does anyone else drink coffee more for like the mental relaxation that it provides? I'm not saying that coffee's a downer to me. I know people like with severe ADHD or whatever, like coffee might be like a total downer for them. Like it has the opposite effect, or at least they say it does. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Coffee does energize me and make me feel like getting up and moving around, but at the same time, it relaxes me mentally. So, like during the visit, I might have like my Stanley full of some iced tea or something just as my 0 calorie companion drink. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I've discovered doing like cold brew tea. And at first I thought I had to buy like a specific product for that. But then I saw something online that you can do it with any tea bag. And it's kind of that same principle where our mothers used to make sun tea. They'd put some tea in a jar and the water wasn't hot, but they'd put it out in the sun and let it sit. Well, you can actually just put regular water, whether it's room temperature or cold, in your tumbler, drop a tea bag or two in there, and then let it sit for a while and add ice or even add your ice right away. And the tea does provide flavor to the water. Maybe it's not as strong as if you'd heated the water, and obviously it doesn't brew as quickly, but it does flavor the water. It does work. And I find that it's super convenient and just be working in your kitchen. Okay. Your refrigerator, your microwave, your countertops, your sink, your stovetop. Okay. I'm assuming you already deep cleaned your oven a while back. But I find that it's convenient on those days that I work at the school. I work at the school twice a week to make these cold brew teas just by throwing in water, ice, tea bags, and then, screwing on the lid. And by the time I get situated at work, maybe an hour after I put this drink together, it has a lot of flavor. It just does. So, and I don't recommend necessarily paying extra for the cold brew tea bags because I couldn't really tell a difference. And I just have a lot of tea bags in stock. My personal favorite companion drink, 0-calorie companion drink, is, and what I mean by companion drink is just something to kind of carry around and keep near you. Like, you're visiting and you have that on the end table or whatever, or you're going to work and you have it in your tote bag. But I'll do one green tea bag and one mint tea. And I think I have a green tea with lemon tea bag that I sometimes use with another tea bag that's mint. But yeah, use your favorite tea bags. And I drink a lot of plain water, but we all get bored with water sometimes. And some of us have a little caffeine addiction. I have a lot that I need to squeeze into this episode, and I'm not expecting you to get all of this done necessarily during the episode. You might need to go into overtime, especially to clean your floors and whatnot, which I'm going to kind of advise you to do at the end. But just make sure that you clean the inside of your refrigerator and microwave and spray and wipe down your stove hood. That might be an area you don't deal with very often. If you're tall like me, you don't really see the inside part of the stove hood, but you might have somebody shorter helping you in the kitchen and they're going to see it. And it needs to be cleaned anyway because that's gross to just leave it gross. So spray and wipe that down. Don't obsess over it. Just spray and wipe it down so there's no debris that might fall into the food or something. Gross. Okay. And wipe down your cabinets. I think I mentioned that. And then just look around. Do you need to clean any outlets, switch plates, pantry doors? Okay. But you've probably been dealing with things like that. You've probably already cleaned baseboards. I'm also going to link to my baseboard episode in the description in case you're listening to this at a time where it's not really the last minute for you and you still want to go back and do that. There is a bonus episode that's all about baseboards for financial supporters. Another thing, and I'm just throwing things out there. I know I can talk faster than you can clean, but another thing to notice in the kitchen are your windows. Okay. I'm a little disappointed because a few days ago, I washed the kitchen window and the sliding glass door inside and out meticulously, and my dogs have already dirtied up the sliding glass door. And I said something about it, and my husband's just like, well, we have pets. And he's not even really into the pets, but he's just trying to tell me, like, it's normal that there are these doggy prints or whatever. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to keep up to the minute on that, and I have other things to focus on. So I told my daughter, who's kind of the main one who lets the dogs in and out, like, can you just shut the curtain this week after letting the dogs in and out? Because I have a sheer curtain that covers that sliding glass door. It lets a lot of natural light in, which makes my house look bright and big. I love my sheer white curtains, but it also disguises those smudges on the sliding glass door. But if you haven't at least cleaned the old buildup off of a kitchen sliding glass door or a kitchen window and you have time, that's something to think about. But windows probably should not be your top priority if you are running out of time. You want your kitchen to look sanitary, and the windows aren't super important. You should have done it in advance. All right. That said, if you have a kitchen windowsill, this is so random, but this was one of the things I did a few days ago, where you've grown seedlings and stuff. There could be like a little bit of spilled dirt in the window from these little projects. If someone in your family puts little plants in the window or whatever. So make sure you vacuum those up and wipe down those windowsills and vacuum out those window tracks, because it looks dirty. Even though, it was for an herb garden or whatever, it looks super dirty to have visible dirt there. Whereas your dog's putting muddy footprints on the back door doesn't make the inside of your kitchen seem dirty. Choose your battles. I've got to get this cat out of here. She's meowing. I did not know that my daughter's cat was in my office. She started meowing like right next to me because she wanted me to let her out of the room. Speaking of cats, your guests don't want to see your litter box. Days ago, we relocated it to my daughter's room, and I'm hoping that it stays there. Obviously, once you've cleaned the upper surfaces in your kitchen, you're going to want to sweep and mop or vacuum and mop, but I'm going to have you do the floors in your entire house in one fell swoop. When I'm doing something like cleaning floors and vacuuming, I like to hook up whatever I'm listening to a large Bluetooth speaker rather than wearing like the earphones and earbuds. Like I tend to have headphones on when I'm cleaning out a closet or folding laundry or doing dishes. But when it comes to those heavier chores where I'm, using a vacuum that makes noise and things like that, I like to switch to a large Bluetooth speaker. Let's talk about walking through the rest of your house. If you need more time in the kitchen, pause or rewind the episode. But let's talk about things. Do you have a tile entryway that you usually just run over with the vacuum? Today would be the day to sweep and mop that, or vacuum and mop that, to shine it up. We do not mop our entryway that often. We just go over it with the vacuum because it's not like the kitchen where, there could be food spills or whatever. It's just kind of part of our living room. But that's on the to-do list for today, to shine that up, because we have some really pretty shiny tile. If you are one of my higher dollar Patreon supporters, you know what my tile looks like because I recently posted a picture in there of my Swiffer on the tile. I have that tile in both bathrooms as far as the floors and shower walls. And then my kitchen floor is that kind of tile. And then also my entryway. And it's very shiny. So I do like to try to shine it up for guests. You might have other things to deal with in your entryway. Maybe you need to dust a piece of furniture there or whatever. But your entryway is a first impression area. And don't forget about the front porch. Okay? Usually the way we clean our front porch is we power wash it with a hose. Like we power wash the front door and just kind of the front of the house. And this time it's fall. My husband needed to rake the leaves, which he already did. We had so many leaves accumulating on our porch. Like most people have leaves all over their front yard. They rake them into a pile or whatever. the way the wind blows in our area or something, all of the leaves just congregate on our front porch and just pile up at the front door. So that's been dealt with. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that's something you can delegate. I feel like a lot of husbands prefer the outdoor. Don't come at me for stereotyping. A lot of them would rather do something outside. I know someone who every time she's having a party at her house, she will ask her husband for help cleaning the house. And, he's out in the yard trimming a tree or doing something in, like, the remote corner of their backyard that nobody's going to see. They like those outdoor tasks better oftentimes. So it's quite possible that your spouse might rather hear, hey, can you power wash the front porch and rake the leaves? Then can you clean these baseboards? But great if he can help you on the inside of the house too. That's great. And my husband does a lot, both inside and outside, but he is retired, sort of. Okay. We are waiting for that to kick in when he turns 62. So special thanks to our financial supporters who support the show either on Patreon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or some other way. That's helping us get through kind of a tight financial time. Because if you don't already know this, my husband's company shut down before he was old enough for retirement. But he's already had a quintuple bypass and this and that. So he doesn't really want to start a new job at this juncture. So we're kind of just weathering the storm for these next few months, and your support is helping us to do just that. And even after that, your support helps me justify the time I spend on this show. If you're listening to this episode in the future, there might be commercial breaks, but at the time of this recording, I don't have any commercials. So I'm only making money from the bonus episode subscriptions. So you're making a huge difference in our lives, and we appreciate that. But again, if I ever do get dynamic ads again, they'll be inserted across all episodes. So if you heard a commercial, it's because you're listening to this in the future. Okay. Also, focus on your main living area. We talked about the entrance. Let's focus on your main living area. Okay. It could be that people are just walking through a front room and then they're going to be hanging out in a family room that's farther back in your house. Obviously, you want your whole house picked up, dusted, and vacuumed. Okay. But I want you to spend a lot of time on the main room that they're going to be sitting in. Let's remove clutter from that room. For example, if you keep a toy box in that room, thin it way down. Pack a lot of the toys away so that the kids aren't going to make a mess at the last minute. Okay. My grandkids' toy box is down to like 5 items for during the visit where we're going to have a lot of people over so that they aren't just spreading stuff everywhere and creating an obstacle course in my living room. I can bring back more toys later, or I might choose to keep it real minimal and just kind of rotate the toys in and out. Okay. But there could be some other issue. Just look around, check for any cobwebs, any super dirty strips of baseboard, grab a rag and some cleaner and just deal with any problems in the main living areas. Okay. If you haven't dusted in a while, quickly dust the furniture. This could be as simple as grabbing a feather duster or a dry cloth. Okay. Just make sure that there's not any visible dust and, straighten those cushions and make sure that the house looks good. You also want the house to smell good. If you know when your guests are arriving, light a candle like 30 minutes prior. And here's an interesting tip for your living room. I was doing some research online and I was like, how did I not know this? But I watched so many videos about preparing for guests because I like to kind of, consume content before I make content just to kind of give me ideas. And one thing that so many videos talked about was to use lamps instead of overhead lighting. And I do have a lamp in my living room, but it's just been sitting there without a bulb for the longest time because we typically turn on the overhead lights. There's a light in the entryway, which is part of our living room, and then there's a ceiling fan with a light. Once we turn on those two lights, we have plenty of lighting, and that's just what we've been doing. But I mentioned to my husband, like, supposedly, like, we're supposed to be using lamps to kind of, create some ambiance or whatever. So we put a light bulb in that lamp in the living room so that in the evenings we can turn on that lamp, light the candles, and it's going to be evening when the guests arrive. So we'll have that lamp on, we'll have the candles lit, so the house will smell good, it'll look nice. And this will also draw attention to our fish tank, which is kind of an interesting focal point. So just make sure that your main living area or sitting room, family room, whatever you call it, looks presentable and it's been dusted, and maybe create some ambiance using lamps and candles. Obviously, you don't want to go to the extreme where you've got the room just dark and it's just candlelight. Okay, you have the lamp on, so it looks like you've got a light on, but then the candles are also noticeable. The fish tank, if you have it, is also noticeable. So those are just some staging ideas. And in the fall, it's always cozy to have a pretty blanket draped over the couch. And even if we don't end up lighting the candles, because we're cooking or doing whatever, I have some fresh wax in the wax warmer and the whole house smells like cinnamon. Of course, you're going to walk down any hallways, check for any problems. Hopefully you've already cleaned the baseboards in your hallways. Again, I'm going to link to a baseboard episode in case you still have time to do this. But I'm assuming today is kind of the culmination where you're just doing kind of a final walkthrough. Okay. Of course, you're going to touch up your bathrooms, especially your guest bathroom. But if you're having a lot of people over, you definitely need to make sure that that secondary bathroom is presentable as well. I have deep cleaned both of the bathrooms. Make sure that there's toilet paper, extra toilet paper, fresh clean hand towels for guests that are going to be there for the day. Also bath towels if you're having overnight guests. And then you might need to, if you've deep cleaned your bathroom recently, you might need to just touch it up with a glass cleaner or a glass and surface spray. Okay, touch up the mirrors, touch up whatever. Okay, the most important rooms when having party guests are your main sitting area, your kitchen and dining areas, your guest bathroom. But of course, if you're having overnight guests, you need to go into the bedrooms as well. Or there's just a chance somebody's going to go into a bedroom. Maybe they need a place to wrap gifts. Maybe they need to change a baby on your bed or something. So make sure that the bedrooms look good as well. Obviously, at the last minute, it's okay to lock a bedroom if you need to. Oh, sorry, that bedroom's not childproof, so we're keeping that one locked, but you can go in this other room, that sort of thing. Okay, but obviously, if you're going to have guests for like a week, they're probably going to see into all of your rooms. Look around your guest room, make sure that it's neat and tidy and there isn't any dust building up anywhere. Okay. You basically want to get your whole house vacuum ready. Okay. If you haven't already done so. And earlier in this series, one of the first steps or the first step was to store more stuff out of sight. We talked about like cleaning out closets so that you'd have more storage. Well, now's the time to use that storage space and start stashing things away. Okay. When you had a couple weeks before the get together, you were organizing your closets. You were decluttering. You were throwing things away. You were donating things. You were organizing things. So ideally now you have some extra space in your closet so you can hide that basket of residual clean laundry that you're not going to have time to fold at this point. You can stash those random items that you're still storing on the floor somewhere. You can clean your bedroom teenager style. and just stuff everything in the closet because ideally you've freed up space for that. There's definitely a time to quit doing things the perfect way and just put everything out of sight so that you can vacuum and dust and your house will look good. Okay? It's not the end of the world if somebody opens a closet and it's a little stuffed or whatever. They're probably not going to be opening a closet. I mean, they might open a coat closet if you live in an area that's cold and people wear heavy coats that they need to hang in a closet. They also might open a linen closet if that's where you store your towels. But what they're not going to do is open your bedroom closet. Okay? I mean, if you're worried about them maybe hanging things up in the guest room closet, just open it and make sure there's nothing super embarrassing in there. But your closets don't need to be perfectly organized. You don't need to prove that you're the perfect housekeeper. You just need to show that you know how to throw a party and that, you can dust and vacuum and have a sanitary kitchen and a house that smells good. Okay, very few of your guests have a perfect home. Okay, and if they do, it's because they're in another season of life. Okay, maybe that guest with the perfect house never cooks. So there's nothing to clean in their kitchen. Or maybe their kids are grown or they're retired. I mean, different people have different situations. And I'm not saying that if your kids are grown or you're retired that you don't struggle to clean the house and that you aren't listening to this episode. But what I'm saying is stop comparing yourself to other people whose priorities are different, their schedule is different. They might be getting more help from a spouse, but then you wouldn't want to be married to that guy because there are a lot of bad things about him. Okay. So there are too many variables. Stop comparing yourself to other people and just do your personal best for this get together with the time you have. I mean, I could spend a lot more time and money preparing my house for this get together, but I have no desire. I have other things I need to do. I'm going to be working on homework later today. So again, just go through the 4 steps to the best of your ability within reason. Okay. Based on the time you're willing to spend, the money you're willing to spend. You're going to store more stuff out of sight. Hopefully you've recently cleaned out your closets or you just have some extra space. Stick some things in there that aren't normally going to be in there. Okay, like your clean laundry basket, or maybe some items that you meant to take over to your daughter's house or have her pick them up and they're still here. So you're just going to put them in the closet. Okay, I'm using my own examples here. So number 1, store more things out of sight as you're doing your walkthrough. Number 2, deep clean surfaces. As you're doing your walkthrough, see if there's any embarrassing surface that you failed to deep clean and just get some cleaner and clean it. You probably cleaned most of your baseboards recently, but if you see a dirty spot, clean it. Okay. Number 3, buy anything you need. Maybe you need to go on a trip to the store. I keep telling myself that I might make this signature chocolate cake tonight, but I'm not going to go get the ingredients for it because I want to get my homework done first. So I'm telling myself, if you get your homework done, you can take this extra step of baking this cake at the end. But it's not absolutely mandatory. Sometimes you have to cut some things out of your original plans. Number 4, wash bedding. Yes, I'm going to make sure that my son washes his bedding in case his bedroom becomes one of the guest rooms. Set a timer to put it in the dryer. Make sure you have clean towels if you're going to have overnight guests and decide where you're going to store those towels, whether you're placing them on the guest beds or under the sink in the bathroom or on a towel bar or in the linen closet. Just make sure you've got those clean towels and you know where to find them. What I don't want you to do is go dig them out of a laundry basket while your guests are at your house. Okay? Fold them and put them away. And we talked about buying stuff. If you have any finishing touches, hang up those cute towels you bought. Put out those decorations, whether you're decorating for Thanksgiving or Christmas. I decorate for Thanksgiving when I'm having a Thanksgiving thing. So Christmas decorations are either going to come out after Thanksgiving if my kids ask to decorate, or maybe even a few days later after the guests leave. But no judgment here if you like your house decorated for Christmas during Thanksgiving. Like, I didn't grow up with that, so that's not what I do. My mom does it now so she can take like cute Christmas photos of her dog and whatnot, and just because she has a lot of fun Christmas decor. But that's just not how I do it. So as you're walking through each room, just check for cobwebs, dusty areas. Quickly dust the furniture. Doesn't have to be super thorough. It could be dry dust, it could be wet dust, whatever is easy for you. And just items that you have out, stash in the closet. Okay? I've definitely got a large container of clean laundry. I'm going to just stick it in my closet. I don't care if I can necessarily walk through my walk-in closet if the rest of my house is clean. You see what I'm saying? Something's got to give sometimes. And whether you do things right or you just do them depends on how much time you have left. So don't panic. Just stash everything out of sight, dust, and vacuum. Assuming you sanitized your kitchen during the beginning of this episode, and assuming your bathroom's been deep cleaned recently. If not, prioritize that. Okay, now it's time to do that heavy work of doing all the vacuuming and mopping and whatnot. So it might be time to listen to another podcast or put on some music. I hope you got a lot done during this episode. I hope I motivated you and gave you permission to take some shortcuts too. Oh, by the way, I was going to schedule out another episode closer to Thanksgiving, but I decided to combine the kitchen deep cleaning episode with the finishing touches episode, which is what this was. So I won't talk to you until after my guests leave. And I'm not even sure what day that is. So maybe I'll do a bonus episode this weekend, or maybe it won't happen till Monday. Happy holidays, happy cleaning, and I'll talk to you sometime after Thanksgiving.